Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens donates Thanksgiving meals to needy residents. I'm Tim Harfman, and I'm standing by.
Catholic Charities out west is sending much-needed aid to the California fire victims. The blaze burning in the north is now being called the deadliest in state history. American rabbis traveling to the U.S.-Mexico border to support the migrants from the caravans now reaching their destination. Plus, their inspirational story helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for a homeless man, but it all turned out to be one big scam. All that and more now on the news. Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Brooklyn is at it again. Hundreds of turkeys and all the trimmings were distributed to those in need today. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. St. Jerome Church was transformed into a mini supermarket today, and to pull off the big giveaway, Catholic Charities received some help of its own. Currents News' Tim Harfman is at the church in East Flatbush to explain. Tim.
Liz, a Queens couple donated 700 turkeys, and this is their third year. The team effort will help thousands who have fallen on hard times have a happy Thanksgiving. Stuffing, gravy, all the fixings. People like Kenneth Dillard can now cook a Thanksgiving meal with help from Catholic Charities.
I think it's great. I mean, I used to not need it, but at some point in my life, I learned humility.
A line wrapping around the pews of St. Jerome Church in East Flatbush as those in need wait to get food like they were at the supermarket. Monsignor Alfred Lapinto is the CEO of Catholic Charities.
It gives us the opportunity to share with them because we're thankful for all the gifts that we get at Catholic Charities, and those gifts are given to us to give to others.
Catholic Charities held a similar event in Queens Thursday. All of the items are donated. Al Catanese and his wife Maria donated 700 turkeys, a tradition the couple started 2 years ago. They're parishioners at St. Francis de Sales Church in Bell Harbor, Queens, and want to help fellow Catholics.
It's nice to come here and see the end result other than just writing a check and you don't know how much of your money goes anywhere. But when you hand the person the turkey and you put it in their basket, you know it's going home to their table. And that person has a smile on their face, and it puts a smile on our face.
Lakeisha Jordan has her hands full with donated food and children. With her 9-month-old strapped to her chest, the Brownsville resident tells me she has 2 other children and takes care of her younger sister. She's grateful for the help.
I'm able to get and they're able to eat and everything, and they can have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
This is one of 160 programs Catholic Charities runs throughout the year to help nearly 100,000 residents. That includes donating 1 million meals through food pantries. And though this may be a challenging time for Lakeisha, it's not enough to shake her faith.
If it wasn't for him and Catholic Charities, I probably would be struggling real hard right now.
And there was such a need, Catholic Charities ran out of turkeys. Anyone who didn't get one received a voucher to use in a supermarket. In East Flatbush, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News. Liz, back to you.
Tim, it's such a generous thing that they do. Why did Al and Maria start their tradition of donating turkeys?
Well, they do it in memory of their parents. Al told me for decades his father owned a company and gave turkeys to his employees, and Al wanted to bring that tradition back. So while he was trying to figure out how to do it, his wife Maria suggested Catholic Charities. It's a tradition they hope to continue.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Catholic Charities out west is doing its part to help the victims of the wildfires in California. It's sending clothing, shoes, and other essentials to the disaster zones. Meanwhile, the death toll is rising yet again tonight as the search for several hundred people continues. Natasha Chen has the latest.
The number of missing is staggering.
The number of people who are still looking for, who are unaccounted for, has increased to 631.
The death toll is rising.
We have located 7 additional human remains.
And the destruction is overwhelming.
141,000 acres.
The state of California is reeling after more than a week of devastating wildfires. Officials continue the disheartening task of combing through debris and burned down structures, looking for additional human remains. They hope the hundreds of people missing are still alive, either in shelters or safe with family or friends, unaware that the state is looking for them. The deadly Camp Fire that nearly wiped out the city of Paradise is roughly 45% contained.
I don't know if there's ever going to be a paradise again, and I don't know if it's going to be a long time. I'm sure everything's gone. So I don't know. That's the hard part right now, is what I'm going to do next.
In Southern California, where the Woolsey fire killed at least 3 people and wiped out more than 98,000 acres, several mandatory evacuations remain in place.
You go from being thankful for what wasn't destroyed to being devastated by what was.
The good news for residents and firefighters, winds are expected to die down over the weekend, and rain is in the forecast next week. President Trump is expected to visit the region on Saturday to meet with first responders and victims. In Westlake Village, California, Natasha Chen, Currents News.
Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada has been collecting donations for the fire victims all week. As you can see in these photos shared with Currents News, they filled at least 30 large boxes, and the first load of donations was already sent off. Trucks with essential items will continue to be sent over on a weekly basis. If you'd like more information on the services that the Diocese of Brooklyn's Catholic Charities offers, or if you'd like to make a donation to the cause, visit their website, ccbq.org. In Italy, the church is working on a new resource for dealing with the clerical sex abuse crisis. During an extraordinary assembly, the Italian bishops were presented with new guidelines which were created by an ad hoc commission. Among them is the formation of a national advisory center made up of lay and religious members that will help to prevent abuse. The bishops are taking guidelines back to their diocese for evaluation before voting next May. The U.S. Bishops' Conference and the Holy See are facing a class action suit. The suit was filed in Washington, D.C. 6 men claim they were sexually abused by Catholic clergy during their childhood and are seeking financial damages, public contrition, and reparation from the church. The 80-page lawsuit claims both the Vatican and the bishops knew about the abuse and still protected and promoted the offenders. The USCCB says it's not commenting due to the pending litigation. In Texas, a group of rabbis visiting from the Midwest gathered near the U.S.-Mexico border to protest immigration policies. They're calling their demonstration, "Let Our Families Go." Adrian Ochoa has more from Texas.
We can have a border and still be compassionate with people.
The tour started at the Paso del Norte bridge, where the group saw firsthand the government's presence and the location where hundreds begin the process of seeking asylum. They then took a bus to the Tornillo port of entry, where they held a vigil for the immigrant children being held at a detention center. Rabbi Josh Winston came all the way from Ann Arbor, Michigan. He spoke about the Jewish community's involvement in this issue following the recent shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh.
And that, for me, and I know for many other people, filled us with more energy to do this. That you cannot kill our values. That's impossible. And we will come again and again and again until this place is shut down.
The group then tried to get to the detention center, but a Homeland Security officer gave them a warning.
In order to do that, you would have to walk onto federal property, onto that area over there. And that is what I cannot permit.
The group also consisted of other religious leaders from the borderland, including Father Tom Smith from Holy Cross Church in Mesilla Park, New Mexico.
But now they have a better sense of what it feels like to see the gates, to see the bridge, to see people who are being brought in the bus. It's kind of a direct personal experience. I've been here before, I've lived with it for a while, but for them, hopefully they will go back and continue that conversation with their friends, with their relatives, with representatives of government or whomever, to say we can do something to change this.
And that was Adrian Ochoa reporting. In Ohio, the House of Representatives has passed a new pro-life bill that says abortions will be banned if the baby's heartbeat is detected. The heartbeat bill passed the House 58-35 and will now head to the Ohio Senate. If approved, abortions around 6 weeks will be banned, especially if a heartbeat is heard. Also tonight, for the second time in 3 years, the President of Israel has traveled to Rome to meet Pope Francis. Among the topics discussed, the negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. Sean Richardson tells us more.
The Pope met with the President of the State of Israel, Reuven Rivlin. The Vatican reports issued to discuss were such things as the Holy See's desire for suitable agreements to be reached in relation to some issues of common interest. For example, on the negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians, the special status of Jerusalem, as well as the importance of safeguarding its identity and vocation as a city of peace, were also explored. The political and social situation in the Middle East was another topic, especially pointing out the importance of dialogue between the various religious communities in order to guarantee peaceful coexistence and stability. They also spoke about the common effort to fight anti-Semitism throughout the world. In the exchange of gifts, the Israeli president gave Pope Francis a plaque of the city of Jerusalem, divided into 5 neighborhoods. The Pope also presented him with a plaque of a plant growing in the desert, hoping that out of the desert of anonymity, peace can grow. On December the 30th, the Holy See and the State of Israel will celebrate 25 years of diplomatic relations. In Rome, Sean Richardson, Currents News.
Israel is heading for early elections. The decision came after talks between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Education Minister Naftali Bennett broke down earlier this week. Bennett had threatened to quit if he wasn't given the defense portfolio after the resignation of the country's defense minister on Wednesday, but Netanyahu rejected Bennett's demands. Israel is set to pick a date for early elections on Sunday. A Jesuit priest serving in Kenya has been killed. Father Victor Odhiambo died when a group of armed men stormed the church compound where he lived. The priest was the director of a Catholic church-run training center for teachers. One person has been arrested in connection with the crime, but the motive remains unclear. Former papal advisor Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano has lost a civil lawsuit against his brother. The Italian court has sentenced Vigano to compensate him over $2 million, including interest and court costs in a feud over a family estate. Vigano has recently made headlines for publishing a statement asking Pope Francis to resign over his handling of the clerical sex abuse crisis. President Trump has awarded the nation's highest civilian commendation to a mix of eclectic honorees today. The 7 recipients range from the world of sports, entertainment, law, and politics, including retired Senator Orrin Hatch, doctor and philanthropist Miriam Adelson, ex-quarterback Roger Staubach, and former Supreme Court jurist Alan Page. Posthumous honors were granted to Babe Ruth, Elvis Presley, and Antonin Scalia. There's a lot more news headed your way. Their story went viral and sparked a GoFundMe campaign that raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for a homeless man. Now, all of them, including that homeless man, are in trouble with the law. Also ahead, he thought his marriage proposal went up in flames along with his California home, but then a remarkable moment, and it's caught on camera. Plus, the importance of building community among priests who live together. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio talks about it in his weekly segment, Into the Deep. And an important programming note to share with you. Currents News is moving to a new time. Starting Monday, December 3rd, the news will air a half hour earlier at 7 p.m. right here on NET. Mark your calendars. We'll be right back. Dartmouth College is facing sexual abuse allegations. Several women are suing the college in New Hampshire for $70 million. They claim 3 former professors turned one of the school's departments into a, quote, 21st century animal house. The defendants say professors conducted professional lab meetings at bars, condoned excessive drinking, and invited students to hot tub parties. The students say their repeated complaints were ignored until last year.
Dartmouth has exercised inappropriate responses, sweeping our complaints under the rug in every way.
In a statement, the college said sexual misconduct and harassment have no place at Dartmouth. However, we respectfully but strongly disagree with the characterizations of Dartmouth's actions in the complaint and will respond through our own court filings. A homeless man helps a stranded damsel in distress. The heartwarming encounter is shared on social media and sparks a massive GoFundMe campaign to give back to the Good Samaritan. It sounds like a wonderful story until you find out the whole thing was a hoax designed to steal your money.
The entire campaign was predicated on a lie.
The feel-good story that tugged at heartstrings across America is now being called a fairy tale. When this homeless veteran, John Bobbitt Jr., found this woman, Kate McClure, stranded on Interstate 95 in Philadelphia, he gave her his last $20 so she could put gas in her car. She claimed she was so overwhelmed by the kind gesture, she decided to pay it forward. McClure and her boyfriend started a GoFundMe page to help Bobbitt get back on his feet. The campaign raised more than $400,000. Not long after, the story began raising suspicion. Now, a year later, the truth comes out.
D'Amico, McClure, and Bobbitt conspired to pass off a fake, feel-good story that would compel donors to contribute to their cause.
Prosecutors in New Jersey have filed charges against all three.
My office has charged Mark D'Amico, Caitlin McClure, and Johnny Bobbitt Jr. with second-degree theft by deception and conspiracy to commit theft by deception.
Bobbitt says he only saw $75,000 of the money raised. He sued the couple for fraud back in August.
Among other things, they bought a car, took trips, purchased high-end handbags, and hit the casinos hard.
Even so, officials say Bobbitt was a willing participant in the scam.
Promoting the campaign in multiple media appearances and posing with D'Amico and McClure for a Philadelphia Inquirer story in front of a gas station that he did not buy gas from.
The second-degree crimes could carry a sentence of 5 to 10 years for three friends who turned out to be frauds. GoFundMe says all duped donors will receive a full refund. Pope Francis used his daily homily to note how the modern world does not recognize martyrdom. He said the church grows with the blood of those men and women who gave their lives for their faith, but the world today tends to hide it.
Oggi ne sono tanti. Curioso, non sono notizie. Il mondo nasconde quello. Lo spirito del mondo non tollera il martirio.
The Holy Father invited the faithful not to fall into the temptation of becoming a church of events, for the church grows out of the Eucharist and good works. In this week's Into the Deep, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio discusses the value of community living among priests with Ed Wilkinson. Ed.
Thanks, Liz. Today we're going to talk with Bishop DiMarzio about a good community spirit among priests. Bishop, recently in a talk that you gave about sex abuse, the general scandal that's going on, you talked about the importance of priests having good communal life, living in good rectories together. Why is that so important in addressing the sex abuse issue?
Because we know, for example, the religious have less sex abuse issues than the secular clergy. One of the reasons you would think is that they live together, they have some support system. So that's one indication. But it's very true that priests need priests to be their support system. It's difficult in a particular rectory because you don't pick the people you live with. And in fact, when you do pick the people you live with, usually there's problems because people pick their friends, but you can't live with your friends. You can go on vacation with them, but you can't live with them. There's a big difference. So it's very difficult. But the basic thing is, yes, you're supposed to be supportive of one another. As I said very clearly, they're not boarding houses. These are places where you have to have common prayer, some idea of your common ministry, and dialogue. This is very important and healthy.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, what do you think are some of the qualities that you're looking for in a good rectory? How can you tell? I mean, you make a lot of visitations, you go to rectories. What do you look for in a rectory to say this is a good place to live?
First of all, if it's clean. When I want to live there myself. You know, if it's disheveled, if it's not taken care of, that tells you something about people who are living there. Mm-hmm. They're not conscious of their surroundings. And they have people come in their offices, and people come in and you want to look at a nice place. I mean, that's an indication you're not really in charge or looking at how that way is. And I think, again, it's this idea that they have a place, they have a little chapel in the rectory. That's a good indication that this is a holy place, that they're praying together, that people do pray, and not just in church. It's very hard for priests to pray in church. Somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder, ask you this question, that question. You don't have that privacy you need. So those are the things I look for.
We have some rectories where there's only one priest living there. I mean, is that something that you discourage or you'd like to move away from?
It's very difficult. Some people do much better living alone and having other relationships with priests outside of it. Some priests like to try to live alone. We've had team ministry issues, and they haven't worked very well back 20 years ago. And it's not an easy thing to do. I do think, though, when priests are together. They have a common mission, and they need to focus on that. Personalities are different, likes, etc. You can't have people that are chummy or pals, and that's not going to work. You have to have it focused on our vocation.
Mm-hmm. We have about 190 parishes in the diocese or so in Brooklyn and Queens. Does every parish need to have a rectory, or could we ever think about the concept of, say, a regional rectory?
Yeah, we've asked for that. People are living together a few places. We have 2 or 3 indications of that, but it doesn't seem to be a great movement. I told them, I said, look, we're not supposed to be there to guard the rectory or the church. We have, thank God, all kinds of electronic surveillance things today that can be as good as you're there. If you're not there, you can see everything. So if you want to live together, we encourage that. We can't force it, though. And I think this is where we have to look at the future to see if we can get people more open to that. Mm-hmm. When you have support groups that are formed by the clergy themselves, that's a good indication that they can share their life together, that they can support one another. And those are the people that perhaps could live together.
How about we have so many externs in this diocese? Is it difficult for them to share the same kind of lifestyle as people who have lived here their whole life?
I think it is difficult for them. I mean, they're all migrants themselves. They have all the problems that migrants have, and plus the responsibility of ministry. So it is rather difficult for them, and we're concerned for them too. Mm-hmm. We try to encourage them. We have a meeting with them each year and we have a vicar that looks after their particular needs. So, we are concerned, and it's not easy for them.
Okay, thank you, Bishop. Liz, that's the latest on rectory life. Now it's back to you.
As always, thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio, for that insight. Still to come on Currents News, a sparkle of hope amid the ashes. What one man thought was lost forever in his home destroyed by the California wildfires is found. In Paradise, California, a man returned to find his childhood home destroyed by the raging wildfire. But in the midst of widespread devastation, he discovered a glimmer of hope spared by the blaze. Emily Maha has more.
Oh, the old gazebo. Oh, man. I lived there for 20 years. It was the only place I ever lived at as a kid.
Walking through the dust and debris, Nick Mays can see his childhood home exactly as it used to be.
This was the backyard. Had a fence, and then the moose lodge is that way.
As the initial shock of losing his parents' house set in, another thought came to mind.
Oh no, the ring.
Tucked inside a velvet box, securely stored in a safe in his parents' bedroom in Paradise, is the dream ring he hoped to give when proposing to his girlfriend of 2 years.
There's no doubt in my mind that she's the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with.
We went with Mays as he began searching for the safe.
This might be it.
With a hand from his dad and the help of a crowbar, the safe was pried open.
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Well, look for the diamond. Is that a diamond there? No?
The odds didn't look good until a glimmer caught the light.
Yep, you got it. This is it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
And there's a bullet around. What's up with that? Is that a sign?
A sign that even during the toughest of times,
don't get me wrong, this thing has seen better days.
love and hope can find a way to survive.
What a great story. Nick intends to get the ring fixed. He was planning to pop the question next month, but said he may change his plans after finding the ring. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you so much for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.